Okay, guys, I come back and we started the DAT, delivered terminal, and I told you this term is the price is limited where the seller's obligation to unload the product is within terminal. Okay, if the luggage, if the container is out of terminal, the seller has no obligation to unload that one by his own cost. Okay, so but this DAT is deleted at Incoterms 2020. Okay, 2020, because of this limited area. Okay, usually in practice, the buyer want to extend this price to his price, his factory or final destination. So in his final destinations, the seller has to obligations. No obligation, but the buyer want to this product be unloaded by cost of the sellers. So Incoterms 2020, this term DAT deleted, and then alternative term has appeared to replace this one. So we will study it later on. Okay, but in this chapter we will study Incoterms 2010 only. Okay, let's go to the next term. The terminal include price whether curved or not, such as quarry, warehouse, container yard or load, rail or air cargo terminal. The seller bears all risk involved in bringing the goods to and unloading them at the terminal at the named port or place of destinations. Okay, this terminal at DAT is limited, I told you several times. And this terminal include the price, whether covered or not, such as a quarry, a warehouse, container yard or not, rail or air cargo terminal like that. The seller bears all risk involved in bringing the goods and unloading them at the terminal at the named port or place of destination. Now we are scanning the 2010 rules for any mode of transportations. Okay, DAP, delivered at price. The DAP means that, the seller delivers when goods are placed at the disposal of the buyers on the arriving means of transportation ready for unloading at the named place of destination. Okay, DAP delivered at price. This is similar to DAT in previous term, but difference in loading. You don't have to unloading at DAP. You just put that on the vehicle which is ready to unload by buyer. Okay? The difference between DAT and DAP is whether the obligation unloading is on seller or not. Okay? At DAT, the obligation is on seller. DAP, seller has no obligation to unload the product. He has only to prepare and let them ready to be unloaded, okay, by buyer. That's difference between two terms. Again, if I read it again, okay, delivered at price DAP, meaning that the seller delivers when the goods are placed at the disposal of buyers at the arriving means of transport ready for unloading at the named place of destinations. Okay? Okay. The seller bears all risk involved to bring good to the named place. Okay? Okay. That's the same DAT. Okay. DDP, delivered duty paid. DDP, delivered duty paid. Okay, what it means? Okay, delivered duty paid meaning that the seller delivers the good when the goods are placed at the disposal of buyers, cleared for the import on arriving means of transport, ready for unloading at the named place of destination. Okay. DDP is the terms, okay, not only delivered to the destinations, but you don't have to unload that one, just to prepare them to be unloaded. Okay? You have only let them in state of to be unloaded. You don't have to unload that one like DAT, but you pay, you pay for tax for passing custom clearance. Okay, understand that one? So that's a DDP, delivered duty paid. Okay, after you paid the duty and you delivered it to the certain place and let your product be ready to unload. But you don't have to unload that one. Just prepare, just be ready for unloading. Okay? That's difference. The only terms the only term which has obligation to unload the product was DAT. Okay? DAT in Incoterms 2010. Okay. Okay, more. The seller bears all the cost and risk involved in bringing the good to the place of destinations as has an obligation to clear the goods not only for exporting but also for import. Okay? To pay any duty for each export and import and to carry out all customs formalities. Okay? Okay, you have to pass the customs. Okay? And for the custom clearance, you have paid for the duty, okay, the tax, and delivered it to the place designated at the status of unloading. You don't have to unload that one. Just keep the status of unloading, ready for unloading. Okay? Okay, this time we're gonna study the rule for sea and inland the waterway transport. Okay, this is not transport for all kind of transport. This is just for the sea and inland waterway transport using. Okay. FAS, the pre-alongside CIP, FAS. Okay, what do you mean? FAS. The FAS meaning that the seller delivers when the goods are placed alongside the vessel. Okay, this one usually because the quarry or the barge. Okay, the vessel nominated by buyer at the name port of cement. Okay. The FAS is free alongside CIP, meaning that you have only to put your product alongside the CIP. The CIP which are supposed to be arrived. Okay. So you just put it alongside the CIP. That's it. Your obligation is done. Your cost, you don't have to pay for more cost. Your cost is up to that. That's it. Okay? This kinds of term we called FAS, free alongside CIP. Okay, understand? Okay. FAS is free alongside CIP. The risk of loss of damage to the good passes when the goods are alongside the ship. Okay, the buyer bears all cost from that moment onward. The buyers bears all cost from that moment onward. After that, all responsibility is on buyers. On buyers. Okay? Okay, then let's see the more. Okay, rules for sealand and inland waterway transport. So, pre-on-board, FOB. This is very common terms. We are very accustomed to these terms. The FOB, FOB. So many people say FOB. Okay, what does it mean of the FOB? The FOB is pre-on-board, meaning that the seller delivers goods on board the vessel nominated by buyer. Okay, at the named port of shipment or procure through goods already so delivered. Okay. FOB, this one is usually for the bulk cargo, not for the container. Okay, bulk. Okay. FOB meaning that the seller delivers the goods on board the vessel's deck on board. Okay, the vessel's deck nominated by the buyer. By the buyer nominated that at the named port of shipment. Or procures the goods already so delivered. Okay. Your obligations will be done once you put the product on board. Put it on board. Your obligation is free. Okay? The risk of the loss or the damage to the good passes when the goods are on board, okay, the vessel and the buyer bears all costs from that moment onward. Okay. After that, all cost is on buyers. Okay. Okay. CFR. Yes, CFR, cost and freight. Okay. This is rule for sea and inland waterway transport. Okay, CFR, cost and freight, meaning that the seller delivers the good on board the vessel, or procure the good already sold, delivered. Okay. The risk of loss of damage to the goods passes when goods on board the vessel. Okay. Meaning the CFR. In CFR, sellers are responsible for the cost and the freight. Cost and freight, not insurance. Okay, just the cost and the freight. Okay, and the destinations of this cost is when the product is on board. Okay, on board the vessel. Okay. The risk of loss of damage to the goods passes when the goods are on board the vessel. Okay, this is different from CIF. CIF include insurance, but CFR do not include insurance, just for freight and cost. The seller must contract for and pay the cost and freight necessary to bring the good to the named port of destinations. Okay. Okay. And CIF, this is very familiar terms, right? CIF, FOB, X-Work, these terms are very familiar to the people, which is related to, the trading, okay? Especially for students also. A CIF is the CFS in previous term. In CFS, if the insurance is included, it is CIF, the cost, insurance, and freight. Okay, cost, insurance, and freight. Okay. Then let's see what the CIF stand for and the meaning of CIF. The cost, insurance, freight, meaning that the seller delivers good on board the vessel. On board the vessel is similar to FOB and CFR together. Later on, we will compare this one by illustrations, and if you see that, you will have more easier understanding. Okay, easier detections. Okay, the difference between terms. Okay? But this is just the definitions. Running from sentence. Okay, running from sentence. Okay, then CIF is one of the most popular terms used, cited by traders. Okay, the cost, insurance, and freight, meaning that the seller delivers the goods on board the vessel or procure the good already so delivered. Okay. Okay. The risk of loss or damage to the good faces when goods are on board the vessel. The seller must contract for and pay the cost and freight necessary to bring goods to the named port of destinations. Okay, you understand this one? Okay, you pay for the insurance and freight and cost to the destinations, okay? But your obligation will quit once you load goods on board the vessel, okay? That's difference. This is difference. This term is quite different from other terms because most of terms, 10 terms, most of terms, go together. Go together. What? What go together? Obligation and, cost go together to a certain point. At that point, your obligation, your cost will be released. Okay? But CIF is very specific because you have different point. The point of obligations, the point of cost is different. This is quite different from other terms. Okay? Most of terms go together. In most of terms, obligations and cost go together. But this term is different. The seller also contract for the insurance, okay, cover against the buyers, the risk of loss or damage to the good during the carriage. Okay. The seller also contract for the insurance cover against the buyers, against the buyer's risk of loss or damage to the good during the carriage. Okay. The buyer should know that on the CIF, the seller is required to obtain insurance only on minimum cover. Okay, minimum cover. Okay. In CIF, the obligations for obtaining insurance of seller is only on minimum cover. Okay. But by negotiation of two parties, you can increase the grade of insurance, okay, which can cover the damage during the carriage. Okay. Now we are studying Incoterms. Again, I emphasize the meaning of Incoterms. The Incoterms is terms, okay, is terms which can be inserted in contract by citing Incoterms. Okay, you will have very easy solutions later on once you have some conflict between two parties while trading. Okay, but those Incoterms specifically define the risk and obligations and cost of each party clearly, so you don't have to argue after you have something wrong between two parties during trades. That's the reason why we are learning about Incoterms. Okay? As we learn the Incoterms, we can clearly define the term of a contract. Okay? If not, we will have a long, description of a contract. Okay. But thanks for the Incoterms, we will have a very short sentence but containing, very very profound meaning. And once we have any jurisdictions, we'll have a very short period to settle down the argument, because we already know that, and we already insert and cite these terms in our contract. Understand that one? Okay, that's again, I emphasize why we are learning the Incoterms. The Incoterms is very essential part of international trading. Okay, because international trading need the clear definitions of risk and obligations. Okay, after short break we will come back and go ahead.